There is a huge controversy at the Olympics in Paris right now. And it's largely related to boxing and two people. So let's meet those two people real quick. One is Algeria's Imaine Khalif. Sorry if I'm screwing these names up, but I'm doing the best I can. This is Imaine Khalif, right? And this is one of the boxers in question. The other is Taiwan's Li Yuting. Li Yuting is the other boxer, and here you can see Li Yuting. Both of them are very masculine in appearance when you look at them, and there is a lot going on here and a lot to unpack. So let's talk about this. Here is the Sun with some details on this. The IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, stirred up huge controversy by clearing these two boxers, these two women, they say, to box who had previously failed a gender test. Now, what a gender test is kind of up in the air because there's lots of different things you could do in sports. You can give these people tests to determine what their chromosomes are. And if you have XX chromosomes, you are 99.99999% of the time a woman, biological female. If you have XY chromosomes, you are 99.99999% of the time a biological male. And that's not the case with both of these boxers. The first one that I mentioned, this one here, Algeria's Imaine Khalif, this person actually does have XY chromosomes, right? So you would say that this is a biological male. But this person is a very, very, very rare individual because they were also allegedly born with female sexual anatomy.
So, hermaphrodite?
No, not actually hermaphrodite, because not born with male sexual parts and female sexual parts, just born with female sexual parts, but the incredible rarity of having the XY chromosome, being a biological male. And in one of these fights, which was just brutal to watch, the female Olympic boxer battling this person quit after like 46 seconds. So the fight was very short. It's been incredibly one-sided with both of these fighters. It looks like two dudes are beating up on ladies at the Olympics. Of course, it's more complicated, and we'll get into the weeds in a second. But there is a lot of response here, including this. This is from the International Boxing Association. And I don't know. I'm not big on the world of boxing. I think the IBA is a big deal, the International Boxing Association. You can see here they have a statement made by the IBA regarding athletes' disqualifications in the World Boxing Championships. And this says, as stated, the International Boxing Association feels it appropriate at this prevalent time to address recent media statements regarding those athletes, Yi Yuting, which is this person once again, and Imaine Khalif, once again, this person. So they're talking about both of them. We wish to make the following points in these regards. On the 24th of March, 2023, the International Boxing Association disqualified athletes Li Yuting and Imaine Khalif from the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships. This disqualification was a result of their failure to meet the eligibility criteria for participating in the women's competition as laid out by IBA regulations. They said they looked into this meticulously, blah, blah, blah. Point to note, the athletes did not undergo a testosterone examination, but were subject to a separate and recognized test whereby the specifics remain confidential. I don't know what that means. I don't think anybody knows what that means.
Pull down your pants and let's look.
It could be. It says a separate and recognized test whereby the specifics remain confidential. This test conclusively indicated that both athletes did not meet the required necessary eligibility criteria and were found to have competitive advantages over other female competitors. So if you didn't look into testosterone, which most people would agree can give you a competitive benefit in something like boxing, then what did you look at and what did you find? I think that's kind of important to note right now. And we get down to the core of the issue with this, and that is this fair? Is it actually fair? Let's say there is somebody who was born with female sexual anatomy, but has a lot of testosterone in their system, more testosterone by a large measure than other women that they're competing against. And that person has XY chromosomes, which may even mean their body structure is different, giving them advantages. Is it fair that that person competes against biological women who don't have as much testosterone or any flowing through their system? That's kind of hard to really grasp, isn't it? So here's one way to think about this. You guys know who Usain Bolt is, right?
Correct,
Usain
yes.
Bolt, the famed runner. I believe he's Jamaican. Usain Bolt, if you put him next to me, undoubtedly, Usain Bolt has so many competitive advantages over
Be like, who's that loser next to Usain Bolt?
So look at that loser guy
Water boy.
right next to this guy shouldn't even be fetching his water. He's shorter.
Is that his manager?
Yeah, it's like Usain Bolt, I think, is taller than me. I'm 6 foot. He's certainly not nearly as physically fit, not anywhere near as fast. I've seen a video where Usain Bolt was just running against regular people. It was amazing to watch. You know, this guy's just, he's on every level different than me and more inclined to be a victor at a race. But in boxing, what do you do with people like this? What do you do with people in the margins? These like 0.0001% of the public who might be intersex, who might just have different chromosomes. I don't think either of these people are actually dudes pretending to be women to get into boxing, to like win a gold medal. I don't believe that's the case. I believe they end up on these fringes, and then you go, is it fair to let that person who's just like physically dominating the women that they're boxing against compete against them?
Here's a way I think it makes it easier to answer this question, at least in my head. Remember the picture of the basketball team that were playing, and it was like France versus Japan?
Yeah.
And it was I think you said it was like a one-story guy competing against a two-story guy.
It's so funny to look at.
It's a hilarious picture, and it's just like, listen, biologically, one team is superior to the other.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and
But
you go,
there is no argument on whether or not they can compete against each other.
I don't know if you've seen this, Sabrina. This is real. This is Team Japan versus Team France.
Okay.
Olympics volleyball, and it's like a giraffe versus a horse. It's like it doesn't seem real.
I don't know what countries it was, but it was the same for the women's basketball, where there was, it was the starting. Where's the sports term where they throw the ball in the air, the pass off, tip off?
Oh, the tip off? Yeah, the tip off.
And it was a very short woman versus a just as tall woman. And it was like, all right, what's the point? And then as soon as the tip off happened, it was more just like I'll grab the ball and hand it to my team thing.
It just lands in your hand because the other person's so much shorter than you.
It just turns out biology's not black and white.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at this, you just go, the thing Steve likes to talk about, is this fair? Is this fair? The difference between these two? Like the Japanese team, this guy's 5'8", and the person he's playing against is 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is it fair? Because I believe there are advantages that these two fighters who are either intersex or, have more testosterone flowing through their system, I believe that they have those advantages. But
As
is
fighters,
that fair?
But also, that French basketball player has advantage as a tall person. So I think to say, is it fair to let them compete? What's the alternative? That they have to go? You make them go fight men,
or you make them go in like the in between league where anybody can fight. It isolates them. I don't think that seems fair to make them fight with the men if they're not like biologically men. I also don't think it's fair for them if they have this massive advantage over the women in boxing. But maybe that unfairness is kind of part of sport in some way. This is a tough one for me. And a lot of this comes down to just like science and biology and what happens in utero. For those of you who don't know, there's a lot of loose science on what may lead to somebody being either gay or transgender, all these different things. And the actual science shows that one thing that's super key in this is exposure to testosterone in the womb. So sometimes there's a woman who's pregnant, and she's pregnant with something that could be a little girl, somebody with XX chromosomes. And in the womb, there's more testosterone that they're exposed to, and the developmental process kind of shifts on that. And then it could lead to somebody who fits the bill like these two boxers, where you see Algeria's Amain Khalif, and then you see the Taiwan boxer Lin Yuting, and it doesn't match up traditionally with what you'd expect. But it's a big question. It's a question that we should be asking ourselves. And it's not even just like the simple weirdo trans arguments that you see out there all the time. This is an interesting argument about fairness in competitive sports. And I'd love to know what everybody thinks about this. So let us know. Lots of people chiming in on chat. That poor bastard says, yes, Sean, it comes down to science and biology. Yeah, but what does that mean? What are you saying by that? Jean Marquis says the IBA didn't let them fight, but the Olympics said sure. Yes, that's true. But who's in charge? Is the IBA, do they actually swing that amount of weight? The IBA release says the disqualification was based on 2 tests conducted on both athletes as follows. Tests performed during the IBA Women's Boxing Championships in Istanbul, Turkey in 2022, and a test performed during the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships in New Delhi in 2023. For clarification, Lin Yu Ting did not appeal the IBA's decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, thus rendering the decision legally binding, they say. And Amain Khalif initially appealed the decision, but withdrew the appeal during the process, also making the IBA decision legally binding. Our committees have rigorously reviewed and endorsed the decision made during, the World Championships. While IBA remains committed to ensuring competitive fairness for all of our events, we express concern over the inconsistent application of eligibility criteria by other sporting organizations, including the IOC. So that's what they're saying, and I'd love to hear what people think. I think it's not like this clear-cut thing that so many people want it to be. That's a dude boxing women. It's like there could be occasions where that happened. If this was a transgender person, I don't want trans women boxing women. I don't want that. I'm against that absolutely outright. I think it's totally unfair, and we shouldn't be having that. But this is not that. This is a different thing. You disagree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I just think it makes me laugh sometimes when it comes to commentary, and I include myself, on sports that we'll never, ever get near. How about we just leave it up to the athletes?
Oh, but we are. And the athlete, the boxer who bowed out after 45 seconds was crying and was upset and said this wasn't fair. That's what I think brings this conversation on. It's not like you're just looking into the abyss and making up an argument here. I'm saying that this is different than what I outlined, which I stand by, is that, when you're transgender and you're a trans female, you have advantages that it's just not fair. But if these people are not trans females, right, as best I could tell.
I think, going back to the basketball comparison a little bit, I think you just have to, at some point, stop trying to make make all these concessions for everybody. And, is it fair to let them fight? I think, at some point, you have to learn the lesson that every kid learns that, life is not always fair.
No.
And so, you can't have that Japanese basketball player going well, this African basketball player, all the African basketball players are 3 feet taller than me. So you know what we need to do? Get rid of all the African. No. That's not going to be a thing.
Right.
That's, we just need
that's why the fairness argument is so much more interesting to me than all this stuff, because that is an unfair dynamic. I mean, it's friggin' hilarious to see the matchup between those two guys. And it reminds me of, by the way, send us a dispatch, please. Go to thenewsjunkie.com, hit record on your first dispatch right now. It reminds me of when I was in kickboxing, and I was about 6 months in. There was this kid, I think his name was Derek or something, and he had already gone through puberty. And Derek had a mustache, and he was already almost 6 foot tall. And I was still a little kid. I still looked like a little kid. I was maybe 5 feet tall.
I want a mustache, Mom. Come on.
And they're like, okay, it's sparring day, meaning you're going to fight with the other people in the kickboxing class, and you're gonna spar. And I'm
I did plenty of sparring in my Taekwondo days.
Yeah, you know what I'm
familiar.
Yeah. So the sparring day comes up. Please not him. Please not him. Please not him. And of course, I have to spar against this kid, and I'm punching like this. I'm punching up at the sky. I'm trying to hit this kid.
Trying to pull out his mustache hairs.
Yeah, I'm trying to do anything, honest to God. And he is just beating the crap out of me because he was so much bigger than me and had gone through puberty when I had not yet gone through puberty. And I remember the frustration in the moment. And this is a whole thing. It opens a giant can of worms. So the can of worms is now open. Let's see what you think about this. Go over to thenewsjunkie.com and send us a dispatch right now.